The Penguins improved to 5-2 this season on Tuesday night by blowing out the Vancouver Canucks, and Pat and I are going to recap that game, plus discuss Sidney Crosby and Kris Letang reaching new milestones right after this.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am one of your hosts, Hunter Hodes. You can follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes, joined by my co-host, Patrick Damp. You can follow him on all social media platforms at Send Him For Wet. You can also follow the show's Twitter at LO_Penguins, and you can follow the show's Instagram account at LockedOn_Penguins. Thank you all so much for making this your first listen / watch of the day. We are free and available on all platforms. And finally, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Pat, you probably haven't noticed it. I'm wearing my Poison shirt today, one of my favorite 80s rock bands, and one of my favorite songs by them is Nothing But a Good Time. And that is exactly what the Penguins are having right now. Nothing but a good time to start this season. 5-2 through their first 7 games, blowing out the Vancouver Canucks on Tuesday night, 5-1. I'll start with this. It was not a good start. They were very sloppy, very slow in the game's first 10 minutes. The Canucks had the first 5 to 6 shots in this game. Of course, a throwback to last year where the first shot of the game goes in. This time it wasn't on Tristan Jarry, it was on Artur Shilovs, and I think he could have been a little bit better there, but he settled in for the rest of the game and was tremendous. More on him a little bit later. But after the 10-minute mark of the first period, the Penguins put belt to ass, excuse my language, on the Canucks, and they whooped them for the final 50 minutes of this game. This was a total team performance, in my opinion. All 4 lines were great. All 3 defensive pairings were good. The special teams were really good. The goaltending was also really, really good. The defensemen were constantly in position and helped take away the prime scoring areas. Again, Artur Shilovs made timely saves. It was a great win in every single phase. And I didn't see this start coming. I don't think anyone did. And I'll say this, man. I don't know if this is sustainable. I would still lean towards no because it is still very early on in the season. But right now, this is a team that's playing like they have nothing to lose. And sometimes that can be really dangerous in a good way.
It can. And I guess it's just Throwback Wednesday here on Locked On Penguins because you got the Poison shirt. I got the classic WWF 1980s Saturday night's main event shirt on. So we're just kicking it old school here on LOP. But yeah, I mean, we'll talk more about whether or not this is sustainable on our Thursday episode when we preview the Panthers game. But this was a 50-minute effort, but it was a complete effort by everybody on the team. And something I've noticed about this team early on, and it's something you and I have wanted to see from this team, not just this season, but for a long time. Through 7 games, they are a scrappy, resilient team. They do not stay down on the mat. They will get up, they will scratch, they will claw, and they might come up short, but they're going to battle. And last night, the first 10 minutes had the making of a game where they were going to get run out of their own building. They did not start well. They were getting circles skated around them. Shilov's goal against was not a great goal against. And it just looked like they had jet lag from the California trip and that they were going to maybe have this one as a scheduled loss. Then about halfway through the first period, they wake up and they don't play particularly well the final 10 minutes, but they hold serve well enough the final 10 minutes of the first period to get into intermission with a tie. And then the second period comes and they just blitzed Vancouver from the start of the second to the end of the game. And let's not delay the inevitable anymore. I said it during the game last night. Kyle Dubas let Justin Brazeau go once. He was not going to do it a second time. What a revelation he's been early. Again, we don't know if it's sustainable, but a 3-point night for the Penguins last night. He's got 8 points in 7 games, 5 goals to go with that. And he has just been an unbelievable driver of play in the top 6.
Nothing about his play is fluky either. He's going to the areas where you score goals. He's great around the net front. He's also been a really underrated playmaker in the first 7 games. He's been fantastic, and even defensively as well. So there's really been nothing fluky about his play. Like, you see sometimes people get hot and it's like, oh, he's just riding a hot shooting percentage, for example. For Justin Brazeau, Pat, it's all 3 zones he has been exquisite in. Hell, we may see him win the Rocket at some point. All right, I'm not going to go that far. I had to joke about it a little bit, but I mean, this is some of the best hockey he has played during his NHL career, and the process has been there, and he's getting the results. So I couldn't be happier for him.
And let's also be intellectually honest here. We can say that he is riding a little bit of a heater, but again, because it's early, I'm highly skeptical he's going to ride a nearly 36% shooting percentage.
Well,
but
that's true.
Still, like what you said is correct. The fundamentals are there. He's in the right spots. He's making the right decisions, and he's getting rewarded for it.
Right. Like the shooting percentage, it helps. But my point was that, like, there's nothing fluky about his start. Like, he's been great in all 3 zones. He's going to the dirty areas. He's using his release. He's showing off his playmaking ability in all these games. He looks like he flat out belongs in the top 6 next to Evgeny Malkin and next to Anthony Mantha. So glad you brought him up. I also want to shout out Connor Dewar. And Pat, how about you pat yourself on the back, by the way? You talked about the 4th line heading in this game. You were liking how they were playing. And they continued that. The 4th line of Dewar, Lizotte, and Achari was once again really good. And when it comes to Connor Dewar, I think he gets underrated by a lot of people in this fan base. This is someone who, in my opinion, he is the straw that stirs the drink on the 4th line. He's the best forechecker on that line. And the goal that he scored was because of the way he was forechecking below the goal line. He was able to get a really nice deflection on that shot. He just works his tail off every single shift. You saw it at the end of last season. It's carrying over into this season. And I really think he is the perfect 4th liner for this team. And I will shout out Blake Lizotte too. He's had a really nice start to this season. Even Achari these last 3 games. I know you and I have gone at him on the show. A lot of people in the fan base too. He's been a bit better these last 3 games, but I really want to take this time to shout out Connor Dewar because he is the one, in my opinion, that really makes the 4th line go.
There is nothing spectacular. There is nothing flashy about that 4th line. And if we're going to lean into Pittsburgh cliches, that has to be a very, very popular 4th line right now because it is lunch pail, hard hat hockey by those 3. They don't do anything spectacular. They're not dangling around guys. They're not skating like the wind. They are just playing honest, hard-nosed, physical hockey especially in the offensive zone. When the Penguins had a rough start last night in the first period, the game started to turn thanks to a shift from them because they didn't do anything flashy. They put the puck deep, they gained possession, they forechecked like maniacs, they set up the rest of the team to come out and build off of it. And you have to give the rest of the team credit for that because you get that energy shift from your 4th line where they don't really do a ton spectacular. They just play very simple hockey. They get you possession in the offensive zone. And then the next wave comes at your opponent and they built off it. And it all started with that line. And yes, I'm still skeptical on Noel Acciari long-term, but at the very least, Dan Muse and the coaching staff have found something in this 4th line. They know what their job is. They go out and do it. They don't try to do too much. And it's been effective, at least for the last week and a half.
100%. And you talked about turning points during, when you were talking there. I think another one, Pat, was when Archer Shelovs made a really big save on an Evander Kane breakaway off of a bad play from Caleb Jones. And I do think Jones had a much better game after that turnover at the blue line. But after Shelovs made that save, that was when he was settling in. And he settled in, especially for the rest of the game. He was great. And you look at how he's playing so far this year, Pat, 4 games. He has a .919 save percentage. Tristan Jarry in 3 games, he's at .922. When you look at the results so far, the Penguins have .920 goaltending through 7 games. Again, I have no clue if that is going to be sustainable. I would still lean towards no because it's still very early. But that is also a big reason why they are off to the start, is because the goaltending has been fairly solid. Pat, at the beginning of the season, you and I, when we did studs and duds, we were kind of down the middle with them. I think now we can go to the one side where they are very much studs because Shilov's had another really good start. I still think Jari is going to get the nod on Thursday just because Damu's is going to keep continuing this rotation until one of the goalies really takes over. But I do think, going back to my original point, one of the turning points was when Shilov's made that save on Evander Kane.
Yeah, again, it's indicative of how the entire team has played so far up to this point. It would have been very easy for Shilovs to get rattled. It would have been very easy for him to let in the next one, but he steeled himself. He figured it out. He got himself straightened up, and he made the saves he needed to make, and he made a couple big ones when he needed to make them that continued to give the Penguins momentum. And at this point, it's a good, healthy competition. And again, we're 7 games in, so we don't want to make too big of declarative statements here because still a very small sample size. But this is something that I have believed in a lot of Penguins goaltenders over the last decade is we have seen Penguins goalies at their best when there is someone nipping at their heels, when there is somebody who is behind them that could theoretically take their job. And with Shilov's playing the way he's playing, it does appear to have, at least for now, elevated Tristan Jarry's game, and that is only good news for both of them.
And we talked about this on our Tuesday episode with Sergei Murashov playing really well in Wilkes-Barre. They both know that he's coming, and it might be as soon as this next season in 26-27. Hell, Pat, he may even make his debut this year, even though I still think it's best case if he plays the whole year in Wilkes-Barre, but they know that he's coming right around the corner. So they're both very much playing for their spots on this team for next year. But I think that's going to do it for this first segment. Coming up in the second segment, we're going to discuss Crosby and Letang reaching new milestones, Anthony Mantha having a really strong game, special teams, and a whole bunch more. So stick around for that coming up right after this. But before we get to that, we have to tell you all about a couple sponsors. One of them is Monarch. Let's be honest, most of us can't even name all our financial accounts, let alone what they're worth. Between 401ks, savings, and investments, it's easy to lose track, and that can mean leaving money on the table. That's why I started using Monarch, an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. It has helped me organize my accounts, track my spending, and get a better handle on my investment without having to touch a spreadsheet. I love also that I can review everything with my fiance, see our shared goals, and make better financial decisions together. Monarch's visual dashboards and smart tools make it so much easier to understand where my money's going and how to make it work harder for me. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarch.com for 50% off your first year. That is monarch.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. And we're not done. We still have to tell you all about our second sponsor, and that is Rugiet. Let's be real. Making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've all heard them before. It's just stress. I'm tired, or it happens to everyone sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support, and that's where Rugiet comes in. Rugiet.com offers fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Rugiet makes it to get started. You just connect with a board-certified doctor, 100% online, no weird waiting rooms, no in-person appointments, and if prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly straight to your door. The process is fast, simple, and private, and it's all handled by real doctors. Visit Rugiet.com/LockedOnNHL to get 15% off your first order. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnNHL. And don't forget to use our code LockedOnNHL so they know we sent you. Rugiet, stop making excuses and start making moves. All right, we're back here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Hunter Hodes, joined by my co-host, Pat Stamp. And Pat, I forgot to say this during the first segment, but it has also been nice when it comes to the goaltending, seeing a lot more timely saves this year to start for the first 7 games compared to last year, where for either goalie, whether it was Jari, Nedeljkovic, or even during Blomqvist's second stint, the Penguins just could never get the timely saves when they needed them. So far through 7 games, and again, it's early, they are getting those timely saves, which is also helping the other skaters ease into the game as well. Now, let's get this out of the way, Pat. Congratulations, starting with Kris Letang, 600 assists, the 4th active defenseman in the NHL to have 600 assists, joining Erik Karlsson, Brent Burns, and Victor Hedman. He is also the 20th NHL defenseman in the league's history to record 600 assists. This is someone who is eventually, in my opinion, going to be in the Hockey Hall of Fame, and rightfully so. I felt like he played the best game of his 25-26 season on Tuesday night. His skating was much better. His decision-making was much better. He was actually driving offense from the blue line. He wasn't out of position in his own zone. He actually looked healthy in this one. This is the level that I want to see from Kris Letang throughout the season, considering how much of a step back we saw last season. This was a really nice step in the right direction, but he was great last night, and he gets a well-deserved milestone here. Here's to many more assists and to many more points as well for one of the best players in the franchise's history.
This was arguably his best game of the season. I don't think there's any two ways.
It was his best game. I don't think it was close, in my opinion.
He played extremely well. He looked very much like Kris Letang. And what do you know? He makes history on what might have been his best game of the year. And can we pause for a second to talk about this, Hunter? He's the 20th defenseman in NHL history to reach the 600 assist milestone. Let me roll through some names here, and I want you to tell me what they all have in common. Erik Karlsson, Kris Letang, Paul Coffey, Larry Murphy, and Sergei Zubov. What do they all have in common?
All Penguins.
That is some of the people ahead of Kris Letang on the assist milestone all time in the NHL history, and they have all played at some point or another for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Yep. That is an embarrassment of riches. And you know who is just a few assists shy from 600? Sergei Gonchar. Now, obviously, he's retired and he's not going to be able to reach 600, but the fact that there are that many defensemen who have reached this milestone in NHL history, and so many of them have played for the Penguins, just an underrated, under-discussed embarrassment of riches for this franchise. But, I mean, overall, you look at Kris Letang's story, everything he's gone through health-wise, everything he's gone through in his personal life, and we'll see how the rest of this season goes, but just a testament to determination in being able to stick with the game, and he gets rewarded for it. Amazing game by him last night, and an amazing milestone for him in his storied career.
100%. And Pat, from one milestone, we go to another. Congratulations to Sidney Crosby. Most points regular season and playoffs combined in Pittsburgh Penguins history, 1,896, breaking the record that Mario Lemieux had with 1,895 points. Number 3, Evgeny Malkin at 1,535. And then Jágr is 4th with 1,226. And then Kris Letang is 5th on this list with 864. Now, again, Pat, very embarrassing amount of riches here in Penguins history, but congratulations to Sid, man. That's one more record that he now holds. Good luck to anyone else who is going to try to break this record years from now. And Sid's not going to be done, man. He is 5 points away from 1,700 regular season points, and he is also only 28 away from tying Mario Lemieux for the most regular season points in Penguins franchise history. He is going to hit that later this year. So a couple more big milestones coming for the Penguins captain, but congratulations to him on this big one.
Wasn't a cheap goal either. He ripped that thing, and I have watched it multiple times over.
My man Kevin Lankinen just stood there. He knew he had no chance.
Seriously, like, I would love to say, oh, Lankinen should have had that, or oh, it was an easy goal, but I like I said, I have watched that multiple times over since last night, and I have to remind myself that it's a wrist shot or a snapshot if you want to really get semantic about it. But the force behind that shot, it wasn't that Lankinen didn't move. It was that Lankinen had no time to react. That thing was off Sid's blade and in the back of the net in the blink of an eye. And for Sid, you look at these numbers, right? 1,359 regular season games, 629 goals, 1,666 assists, 1,695 points in the regular season, ninth all time, trailing Lemieux's 1,723. And then on top of that, I don't think it gets under discussed because 3 Stanley Cups, 2 Conn Smythe trophies, his legacy in the playoffs is cemented, but 175 games in the postseason, 67 goals, 129 assists, 196 points. It doesn't matter what time of year it is. It doesn't matter what the stakes are. Sidney Crosby is remarkably consistent.
I also felt that Sidney Crosby was exquisite on Tuesday night, even outside of the goal. This was as close to a vintage Sidney Crosby performance as we've seen so far this season. And we're going to see quite a few more, but we talked about it. Hasn't been his true best yet, but I felt like this game on Tuesday was as close to that as we've seen so far. He's going to keep getting better. Not concerned about that, but really loved his performance even outside of the goal. Anthony Mantha, he gets his 3rd goal of the year. He's continuing to start cooking a little bit more. I know he had a little bit of a slow start. I know some people were picking on him, but it was only a matter of time, in my opinion, before some of the pucks were going to start going into the net. I'm not really too concerned. And then, Pat, I will pat myself on the back for this one. Tommy Novak gets his 1st goal of the season, gets the game winner, by the way, and he blitzed that shot past Kevin Lankinen. Really nice shot on power play, too. And I'll just echo what I said on the Tuesday episode. Tommy Novak has a history of being a pretty solid point producer in the NHL. I know he didn't have that good of a start to the season, but this is why I'm okay with giving him more of a leeway over someone like Tomasino, because he has a lot more of a history of being a good play driver in the NHL and also a decent goal scorer. So I hope that this means there's a lot more plays to come, but he really needed that one last night.
You take him how you can get him, and I said it to you last night. It was pretty poor defensive penalty kill coverage by the Canucks on his goal, but you don't ask how, you just ask how many, and now the challenge for him is to build off of it. As for Anthony Mantha, hey, if it ain't working, go to the net, and he pretty much went in the net with the puck on his goal, but anything to get you going. I will say for Mantha, he does have some things on the edges he's got to clean up. He's been making some questionable decisions with the puck, but it hasn't quite burned him yet. At the end of the day, though, we know he's working his way back from a major injury, and it appears like he does have chemistry with Evgeny Malkin as well as Justin Brazeau. So early returns from that line are good, and it's given him some runway to work through whatever he's working through. But at the end of the day, I mean, I did not have a game against the Canucks as a quote unquote get right game for a couple of players, but certainly turned into one, didn't it?
100%. And I'll also shout out Ryan Shea. Once again, a really stellar performance on the second pair. I think that's now 3 really good games in a row from him after a little bit of a rough start. So he's starting to find his game a little bit after a few rough games to start the year. I really liked his performance. I loved Harrison Brunick once again. The little poke check off of another mini Evander Kane breakaway during this game was amazing. He also made a really nice play in front of the net about 30 seconds later. So his game continues to get better. And I know Ben Kindle didn't score in this game, Pat, but I also thought he was good once again. He had that little nifty behind the back, no look pass later on in the game where it was just like, it was beautiful to watch right along the boards late in the game. I feel like I could watch that play 20 more times and not get tired of it. So I like their performances as well. And hey, they're 5-2. The vibes are great. This is the best I've seen this team play in quite a little bit. This is the most fun I've had watching this team play since 2022. Not sure how sustainable this is, but I'm going to enjoy it. They have a very big test coming up on Thursday. So that's a little bit of a tease for our next episode for the Penguins to potentially send a message to everyone saying, hey, we might be even more better than everyone thought we were going to be this year, because this is a team right now, to me, they are playing like they have nothing to lose. And sometimes that can be very dangerous in a positive way. But that's going to do it for this second segment. Coming up to end the show It's Wednesday. Yins know what that means. It's time for Pat and I to give out our Warrior helmet for the team MVP for the past week, and that's coming up right after this. But before we get to that, we have to tell you all about our final sponsor, and that is FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Take a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you will unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. I have built parlays, tried player prompts, and even follow the live lines during games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you are a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So, what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started.
All right, we're back here on the Wednesday edition of Locked On Penguins. I have once again, for a second Wednesday in a row, wrestled Hunter out of the host chair so I can host my favorite segment that we do on Locked On Penguins. It is Warrior Helmet Wednesday, and if you are new here, Warrior Helmet Wednesday is our homage to the 2016 Stanley Cup winning Penguins, who, when they gave out their player of the game after a win, they would give out a Warrior helmet. So here we give out our MVP of the week going from Wednesday to Wednesday. And we have talked about both of our Warrior helmets today on this show already. So let's dive right into it. Hunter, our Warrior helmet winners. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can see the graphic on your screen. Hunter takes goaltender Artur Shilov's, and I got to give it to the captain who made history and became the highest scorer in franchise history, number 87, Sidney Crosby. I will start off with this. I struggled before last night's game to come up with a Warrior helmet because the Penguins have been playing pretty solid hockey the last week. The record may not be all that great because they did have a little bit of a stumble in California, but at the end of the day, it has really been a team effort top to bottom. There haven't been a ton of standouts, but then Crosby makes that history last night on an absolutely unbelievable goal. And I do want to build off that. I held off in the second segment. It wasn't a vintage Crosby performance last night, but it was damn close. The way he played last night, he was doing so many of those little Sidney Crosby things we've become so accustomed to. The way he was using body positioning, the way he was possessing the puck, the way he was moving the puck, and then to get himself into that position off of a face-off to score his goal, that was really a classic Crosby moment. So my helmet goes to the captain, number 87.
I love it. Again, Kevin Lankinen, my man froze. He didn't know what to do when that shot was coming in from Sid, but I completely agree with everything you said. It was as close to a vintage Crosby performance as we have seen so far this season. And again, you're going to see plenty more later on this season. But for me, Pat, again, I am giving mine to goaltender Artur Shilov's. I have loved the way that he has played for most of the season. Yeah, I know he had one dud of a start, but outside of that, I think he has been locked in for the Penguins. He was really good against the LA Kings. Does his rebound control need a little bit of work still? Yes, but he kept the Penguins in that game against the Kings, only kept it at 2-0. And in the final 40 minutes, he was outstanding. And even though he allowed a bad goal to open the game on Tuesday against the Canucks, he was never rattled from it. He made a big save on Evander Kane. He made a couple more after that. He was able to settle into the game and make some really nice, timely saves, which the Penguins have really lacked these last couple of years. And it's just been a really nice start from him this season, and especially some really strong play from him this past week. Again, you look at some of the numbers for this year. .919 save percentage, 2.26 goals against average. Again, the Penguins are getting .920 goaltending combined so far from their goalies this year. And also, he is 12th in the league in goals saved above expected with 3.4 per money puck. Just really good numbers so far. I can't say enough about his play.
He's off to a really good start. There's no two ways about it. And it's been a nice breath of fresh air to have at least 7 games in, somewhat to mostly reliable goaltending.
Hey, Tristan's also been fairly good for the most part. I think he's going to get the start on Thursday if they continue this rotation. We'll talk about that for our preview show on Thursday. But I like what Shilovs is providing right now. I will say that. He definitely deserves it. I could have given it to a few other players from this past week, Pat. Easily could have given it to Justin Brazeau because he's been lighting it up. I could have given it to Connor Dewar. I could have given it to Evgeny Malkin. But I felt like I wanted to give it to Shilovs because of the steady goaltending that he has provided. Hell, I could have split it in half and give half of it to Jari as well, but I decided to give it to Shilovs.
Speaking of that, let's take a look at our tracker. We are introducing that this year for Warrior Helmet Wednesday. We're keeping track of every Warrior helmet we give out. The leader in the clubhouse remains our boy Justin Brazeau, who's gotten 2 so far this year. And then there's a whole log jam at 1 with Crosby, Kyle Dubas, Ben Kindle, Sergei Murashov, Dan Muse, and now Arturs Shilovs. It has been a very complete effort so far through 7 games for this team. They're getting contributions up and down the lineup, and it's led to a pretty hot start for the Penguins. So we will talk more about that on our Thursday episode when we preview the Penguins going to meet the back-to-back defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. And we, like I said, we will also discuss, is this sustainable and is it for real? So hang with us. We'll talk about that on our Thursday episode. But for now, for Hunter Hodes, I am Patrick Damp. Thank you as always for tuning in, and we will be back on Thursday.